Tonight on NewsWatch Ole Miss. Today is Ash Wednesday, and we're taking a look at how members of the Ole Miss community are kicking off the season of Lent.
One program on campus may not be the most well known, but it is working on finding a new way to detect tornadoes from a safer distance. We'll take a look at how they are doing it.
And today marks a week since Russia's invasion of Ukraine. We'll update you on that conflict and the attempts to bring it to an end straight ahead. NewsWatch Ole Miss starts now.
Good evening and welcome to NewsWatch Ole Miss. I'm Olivia Wright.
And I'm Mason CNO. Christians across the world are celebrating Ash Wednesday today as the season of Lent begins. NewsWatch reporter Juliana Jackson went to find out how people in Oxford are observing the holiday and joins us now. Juliana.
Ash Wednesday connects millions of Christians, and here in Oxford, many Christians start their promises for Lent today. The most common way to observe Lent is by giving something up until Easter.
Ash Wednesday is the beginning of Lent. It's typically a Catholic tradition, but a lot of different other denominations have started to adapt Ash Wednesday practices. Wednesday, we usually get little ashes in the side of the cross on our forehead or sprinkled on the crown of our heads, which is what we got today.
What Father John even said today, or Father Joe said today in the gospel, he was mentioning how, if anything, during this time, to really sit with the gospel, to look at what you can do to perpetuate the gospel, go out and evangelize to your greatest capacity.
Ash Wednesday in Lent has been celebrated for more than 1,000 years, and Ole Miss students are joining in this year by giving up things for Lent.
This year I'm actually giving up sweets for Lent because I think it'll really help me on my health journey and make me a healthier person.
Fried foods, only grilled foods and milkshakes.
Pope Francis tweeted out today that as we enter a time of Lent, this will be a plea for peace in the world while we are following Christ. In a world where we do not know what the future holds, we can use this day to celebrate peace and unity and look towards the future. Juliana Jackson, NewsWatch, Ole Miss.
Thanks, Juliana. It's that time of the year where the Associated Student Body election candidates have been officially announced. The presidential candidate Lila Osman is running unopposed this year, along with the rest of the executive candidates, with the exception of Kinsley Carlson and Maddie Ryan, who are both running for the Attorney General position. You can find a full list of all the Senate positions and their candidates on the ASB's Instagram page. Elections are set for next Tuesday, March 8th.
In state political news, the new ballot initiative is still alive in the Senate after squeaking through the Senate Committee on Accountability, Efficiency, and Transparency ahead of yesterday's deadline. The Mississippi Supreme Court controversially ended the initiative process last May in a challenge to the medical marijuana vote from 2020 due to a constitutional technicality. While the new bill would not again allow Mississippians to pass constitutional amendments on Election Day, it does allow voters to change statutory law. If the bill survives the conference committee stage, both houses of the state legislature will vote on it.
That wasn't the only bill cutting it close. A Senate committee barely passed the third teacher pay raise bill by the deadline at the Mississippi State Capitol. This new bill would give teacher assistants a $1,000 pay raise for the next 2 years and start first-year teachers with a bachelor's degree at $39,000. Their first year of $40,000 with their second year. It will now go before the full Senate. If approved, it will then go to the House of Representatives to either approve or amend the legislation.
In national politics, the Emmett Till anti-lynching bill passed the U.S. House of Representatives this week. The bill makes lynching a federal hate crime. It passed by a 422-3 vote and is expected to see similar bipartisan support in the Senate. If passed into law, violators would receive a maximum of 30 years in prison in addition to the other possible federal crimes that an alleged lynching might violate. Emmett Till, a 14-year-old African-American from Mississippi, was murdered by lynching in 1955 after being accused of whistling at a white woman. His body was found in the Tallahatchie River in Glendora, just 80 miles from Oxford in Tallahatchie County.
Now for the latest update in the ongoing Family Dollar saga. Family Dollar stores are slowly reopening across the South after closing because of a rat infestation at the West Memphis Distribution Center. But now inspections are showing rodent problems at some stores themselves. Yesterday, by a group of pastors and other community leaders in Memphis gathered to bring attention to Family Dollar health concerns. They said that health concerns at Family Dollar stores were present before the rat infestation closed more than 400 stores across the region. Recent inspections found rodent droppings on food packages, shelves at several Tennessee stores.
For the first time in 2 years, Ole Miss students were able to attend class maskless today. As for how case numbers currently stand, there are 8 active cases on campus, holding steady compared to the previous 7-day period. Statewide, today was a different story. The State Department of Health is reporting 448 new cases today, nearly double yesterday's 228. Whether the new no mask policy changes the numbers here on campus remains to be seen.
Alumni will be returning to town this weekend in a special celebration. The Black Alumni Reunion is back and begins tomorrow. The Student Activities Association will host Unplugged at the Union at 12:15, featuring the Black Alumni Reunion. Throughout the rest of the weekend, alumni will be networking and giving talks. NewsWatch will be covering the action along with the Daily Mississippian to stay tuned next week for more coverage. You can find the full calendar of events on OleMissAlumni.com.
Across the South, we're entering into tornado season, and as the threat of tornadoes ramps up, one University of Mississippi research program is looking for ways to keep people safe from the storms. NewsWatch reporter Tucker Lewis has a closer look.
Yeah, we're hoping to turn this into something that can be used by the public.
Roger Waxler is the principal scientist at the National Center for Physical Acoustics at the University of Mississippi. And for the past 2 years, he's been trying to figure out how to detect tornadoes that are 60 miles away through the use of signals.
So think of my fingers as the microphones in the array. If you have sound coming like this, it hits this one first, second, third, fourth, fifth. You can back out from the time difference between when the signal hits the different elements, what direction it came from.
Microphones detect the signal that is then analyzed by Waxler and his team. And he's hoping to eventually create a tornado tracking app to give more accurate tornado warnings.
If you had, for example, an app on your phone, you could go to and see the dot. It says, there's the tornado. It's crossing Highway 6 near Lamar, coming towards your house. Then you could actually get in the tub and pull the mattress over your head.
Tornado season in Mississippi can result in lots of damage to your home or even loss of a loved one. Hopefully, as more data is collected through the use of acoustic arrays, Mississippians will be able to know when a tornado is coming through the use of their handheld device.
While the research provides hope for the future, for now, remember to check your phone for severe weather alerts when storms are in the area and seek shelter immediately if a tornado touches down.
Now we turn to our continuing coverage of the war in Ukraine, which is now on its 7th day of fighting. While both sides are reporting different numbers of casualties, it is clear that thousands of soldiers on both sides as well as civilians have died in the last week. Ukraine continues to ask other countries for help. CNN's Chris Wynn has the latest details from Washington.
Anguish and devastation as Russia expands its assault on key Ukrainian cities.
What message?
Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky pleading for more international assistance, but staying resilient.
We've hardly slept for 7 nights. Or we sleep, but anxiously.
Ukraine's state emergency service says more than 2,000 Ukrainian civilians have so far been killed during the ongoing Russian invasion. More than 800,000 refugees have fled the country, according to the United Nations.
We've seen videos of Russian forces moving exceptionally lethal weaponry into Ukraine, which has no place on the battlefield. That includes cluster munitions and vacuum bombs, which are banned under the Geneva Convention.
Across Ukraine, scenes of heroism as residents try to defend their country. This video showing hundreds of people blocking Russian forces from accessing a nuclear power plant in southeastern Ukraine.
They will destroy us. And we are saying that we are ready to fight. Just keep helping us protect to hit Russian missiles, which are destroying our hospitals and our kindergartens, our schools, and protect the sky.
As the U.S. looks for more ways to punish Russia, President Joe Biden reiterated that sanctioning Russian oil exports remained a possibility.
Nothing is off the table.
In Washington, I'm Chris Wynn.
As the Russian invasion continues in Ukraine, the Ukrainian resistance has been creative. You may have seen videos on social media of civilians taking over Russian tanks. Well, a Lviv brewery is taking matters into its own hands. Instead of crafting its flagship beer product, the brewery has turned its operations to Molotov cocktails. The owner said his employees encouraged the move, and the brewery has made hundreds for local civilian defense efforts. Many similar Molotov cocktail producers have begun production in Lviv.
U.S., EU, and other allies are coming together to punish the Russian leaders with financial and export restrictions. To make sure that this happens, the Department of Justice established a special unit that will strictly focus on the Russian government officials and oligarchs. This special task force will be composed of several U.S. officials, prosecutors, and even money laundering experts.
As world governments levy heavy sanctions on Russia in light of its attack on Ukraine, some private businesses are taking their own action. ExxonMobil, the largest U.S. oil company, pledged yesterday to abandon its oil and gas project in Russia called the Sakhalin-1 project and has committed to not investing further in the country. In addition to the business action, ExxonMobil put out a statement supporting Ukraine and condemning Russia's move. BP and Shell Oil have made similar decisions to pull out of Russia, and other major American companies like Apple, Ford, and General Motors are reconsidering Russian operations.
While some companies cut ties with Russia, others are looking to provide support for Ukraine. The war has created hundreds of thousands of refugees. Train company Aerostar is offering free train tickets to any Ukrainians traveling from their home country to the United Kingdom. Travelers will need a valid UK visa and passport in order to get a ticket. Airbnb is looking to help as well. The company is providing free temporary housing to around 100,000 Ukrainians who are leaving the country because of the invasion.
President Biden delivered his first State of the Union address last night. We'll have a recap of his speech coming up. But first, here's a look at your current conditions.
Hurricanes and major flooding threaten cities, towns, and rural homes across the Gulf states. So chances are there will be more storms and floods near here again. And between school, sports, and social lives, chances are you won't be with your kids when it happens. Will they know what to do? Ready.gov/kids has all the educational tools and information to make the conversation easy. When the time comes, chances are they'll feel prepared, not scared. So talk with your family today.
Times during class and I tell her to talk to him. And it's like, oh, ew.
Here you go.
Thank you.
Thank you.
It's not my first time bartending, so
It's a sausage party in here.
it's fine. I'm very familiar.
Yeah, because you're a sexy girl, Sam. Last thing, last thing,
Yeah.
is that the music, when Momo kicks it into high gear, is going to get a little bit loud in here. So Your customers are going to have a hard time hearing you, so you may want to.
What?
Hey, let's check out this park. Oh, wow, that's really cool. To find a great local park or forest near you, go to discovertheforest.org.
President Biden delivered his first State of the Union address as president last night, touching on everything from the Ukraine crisis to the pandemic. CNN's Isabel Rosales has a closer look at the president's speech.
Madam Speaker, the President of the United States.
President Joe Biden delivering his first State of the Union under the shadow of war abroad, following Russia's invasion of Ukraine.
Putin's latest attack on Ukraine was premeditated and totally unprovoked.
The president projecting strength as a Western leader, laying out America's response.
Together with our allies, we're providing support to the Ukrainians in their fight for freedom. Military assistance, economic assistance, humanitarian assistance. We're giving more than $1 billion of direct assistance to Ukraine.
Top of mind for most Americans, the impact the conflict will have on already high levels of inflation.
One way to fight inflation is to drive down wages and make Americans poor. I think I have a better idea to fight inflation. Lower your costs, not your wages.
Speaking to a highly divided Congress where his agenda has stalled, Biden points to his administration's successes, including passage of his $1.2 trillion infrastructure bill.
It's going to transform America, to put us on a path to win the economic competition of the 21st century that we face with the rest of the world, particularly China.
With masks optional at the address, the president also attempting to highlight progress made in the fight against COVID-19.
We'll continue to combat the virus as we do other diseases. And because this virus mutates and spreads, we have to stay on guard.
In Washington, I'm Isabel Rosales.
The president's speech received mixed reviews from Mississippi lawmakers. Benny Thompson, the Magnolia State's lone Democratic congressman, praised the president's handling of the Ukraine crisis, while Republican Senator Cindy Hyde-Smith said that there was no cause to celebrate.
And in light of the president's speech last night, a new job report supports the optimistic economic picture he painted. According to a report by ADP, the payroll processing firm, the private sector added 475,000 jobs in February, beating expectations. Further, the company amended its January job report drastically, claiming that instead of losing 301,000 jobs, U.S. companies actually added 509,000. Most of the February hiring came from large companies in the leisure and hospitality sectors. The unofficial report arrived ahead of the Labor Department's official release on Friday.
The first black woman ever nominated to the United States Supreme Court has started her path to the bench. Judge Ketanji Brown Jackson began interviews with some top senators today. She has already sat down with Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer as well as Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell, among others. The White House said that Brown Jackson is willing to meet with any senators who wish to sit down with her.
Despite initial expectations, there was not a baby boom during the COVID-19 pandemic. The latest Centers for Disease Control and Prevention report actually shows that the U.S. birth rates fell about 2% from 2020. The decline was reflected across the board demographically, but New Mexico and Washington, D.C. saw the largest decline in birth rates. However, things are looking up as researchers say data is showing a shift and the rates are already on the rise since the beginning of 2022.
In consumer news, listen up, Fitbit fans. The company is recalling around 1 million smartwatches across the United States for burn risks. The battery inside the watch poses a risk of overheating and burning the wearer. Fitbit has already received at least 115 reports about the watches in the U.S., including 4 reports of second-degree burns and 2 third-degree burns. The watches in question were sold in stores and online from September 2017 to December 2021. To learn more about the recall and how you can get a refund, you can contact Fitbit.
Coming up in sports, the Rebel baseball team moved to 7-0 last night after a monster win over ULM. And the NFL Combine on-field drills officially kick off tomorrow. Find out which Rebels will compete on the gridiron up next in sports.
I surrender.
All right, pal.
Hey, Dad, do we have a gun?
What's up?
Do we have a gun?
Why do you ask that, kiddo?
Can I play with it?
No, absolutely not. It's not a toy. You know that. Anyway, I need it to protect you, your sister, and Mom.
But what about the 8 kids who get shot every day by mistake?
Where'd you hear that?
Where do you keep it?
It's hidden.
I bet it's on the top shelf of the closet, under your sweatshirts. Is it loaded? Remember when I found my Christmas gifts? You always told me to be curious.
No, that's not what I meant.
And when it's just me and Mom, I could use the gun to protect her.
No, Justin, I promise. I'm always here for you.
But Dad, you're not always here.
There's an epidemic spreading. Scientists say it can change your brain. It can release dangerous chemicals like formaldehyde into your bloodstream. It can expose your lungs to acrolein, which can cause irreversible damage. It's not a parasite, not a virus, not an infection. It's vaping.
Don't ignore the subtext. It's on us to intervene in sexual assault. Because we can. Take the pledge at itsonus.org.
As the COVID-19 vaccines become available, you might be asking yourself, should I get it? And if I do, will I be able to go about life without putting my family at risk? You've got questions, and that's normal. The fact is, the vaccines are safe and effective. They're going to save lives. To get the latest on the COVID-19 vaccines, visit getvaccineanswers.org, because getting back to the moments we miss starts with getting informed. It's up to you.
Nothing like kicking off a midweek series at Swayze with a Rebel win over ULM. The Dollar Dogs weren't the only things that were hot last night. True freshman Hunter Elliott had his first start on the bump in the blue and red. He might look like Doug Nikhazy and wear the number 26, but he definitely paved his own way last night, racking up 9 strikeouts for the Rebs. If Elliott's performances continue to look like this, we could see a potential start in a weekend series for the young left-hander. The offense had a solid outing as well, and TJ McCants got his first home run of the season, along with 3 RBIs. Justin Bench and Jacob Gonzalez had an RBI each. The Rebels improved to 7-0 on the season after the 10-2 win last night and are on the diamond as we speak, hoping to make it 8-0. Keeping things on the diamond, after playing their first 16 games on the road, it's home sweet home for Ole Miss softball as they open up their season in Oxford tonight against Southeastern Missouri. Tonight's game will kick off a 10-game homestand for the Rebs. They sit at 12-4, their best start to the season since opening the 2018 season 13-3. After the Knights Classic in Orlando last weekend where they went 4-1, the Rebels are ready for some home wins to keep things going. First pitch tonight is set for 6 p.m. or you can watch the game on the SEC network. Ole Miss men's basketball went up against a powerful number 6 Kentucky team last night in Lexington. The Rebels fought every minute against the nation's best rebounding unit to stay in the game. But not even a 25-point night from Matthew Morrell and strong rebounding from Jamin Brakefield could get the Rebs the dub. Ole Miss kept things close, but the Wildcats shot 61.5 overall. A late spark from James White cut the gap to just 6 points, but it would not be enough, and Ole Miss fell 83-72 on the road. The Rebels close their regular season on Saturday, March 5th, facing off against Vanderbilt for Senior Day in the Pavilion. Tip-off is set for 5 p.m. and can be watched on the SEC Network. Ole Miss head football coach Lane Kiffin has added some coaching puzzle pieces to his staff puzzle. 3 new hires were announced today with the addition of former Western Kentucky defensive coordinator Maurice Crum being named co-defensive coordinator and linebackers coach. Marty Biaggi will be joining the Rebels after 2 seasons with Purdue as special teams coordinator, where he was a 2-time finalist for Special Teams Coordinator of the Year. He will take on the same role with Ole Miss. John David Baker served as the Rebs passing game coordinator last season and has now made the jump to co-offensive coordinator. Coach Kiffin has proven to bring in the best of the best, so we can only assume that this offseason will be no different. The NFL Scouting Combine kicked off yesterday and will run until March 7th in Indianapolis, where 8 former Rebels will be in attendance. Matt Corral, Chance Campbell, Ben Brown, and Sam Williams are just some of the faces you will see throughout the week. Snoop Connor, Dontario Drummond, Braylon Sanders, and Jerrion Ely will also be going through the extensive series of drills, workouts, interviews, testing, and measurements in front of league scouts. Makes you think about all the talent we have moving on to the next level. Although former quarterback Matt Corral will not be throwing this week, he will still be in attendance because he says teams need to know he understands the game of football. Good luck to all our former Rebs as they showcase everything we know they can do. That's all I've got for sports. Make sure to follow us on Twitter at rebel_watch for the latest sports updates.
Thanks, Emily. Apple product lovers have some good news to look forward to. Find out more up next on NewsWatch.
I got some Oxy after I hurt my neck. First, I took them to feel better. Then, I just kept taking them. I didn't know they'd be this addictive. I didn't know how far I'd go to get more.
Opioid dependence can happen after just 5 days. Know the truth, spread the truth.
We're all just trying to keep things running for those who rely on us. That's why we don't have time to be sick with the flu.
We don't have time for delays.
We don't have time for spills.
Next.
We don't have time for setbacks. Let's be real.
Getting the flu shot
helps you fight the flu.
Get a flu shot for yourself and those around you too.
Before we celebrate the freedom most Americans have, we must fight for the freedom all Americans deserve. Because all lives can't matter until Black lives matter.
If I could be you, and you could be me for just 1 hour. If we could find a way to get inside each other's minds. If you could see you through my eyes instead of your ego, I believe you'd be surprised to see that you've been blind. Walk a mile in my shoes. Walk a mile in my shoes. Yeah, before you abuse, criticize and accuse. Walk a mile in my shoes. Walk a mile in my shoes. Well, before you abuse, criticize and accuse. Walk a mile in my shoes.
We are Ole Miss Rebels. As Mississippi's flagship university, we dig deeper, see farther, work harder. We pioneered human organ transplants. We helped prove Einstein's theory of gravitational waves. We are distinguished as a Carnegie R1 top 1.5% research institution. We are Ole Miss, transforming lives and the world.
Apple is unveiling new tech next week in its first big launch of the year. The event tagline is Peak Performance and will be held on March 8th.
Apple is set to unveil a new 5G version of the phone SE of a new MacBook laptops and iMac desktop computers. Updated iPad Air is also on the lineup. Apple will likely highlight its mysterious M2 processing chip.
Those all sound like great devices, but definitely a little more than I'm able to afford.
Say, Mom, if you're watching, keep this in mind for my Christmas wish list.
And speaking of peak performance, Ole Miss is playing ULM right now as we speak. It is the bottom of the fifth, and the score is 2-1, so let's hope they can finish this one strong.
Let's go Rebs. That's all for tonight. For NewsWatch Ole Miss, I'm Mason CNO.
And I'm Olivia Wright. You can find our social media at NewsWatch Ole Miss or the latest updates on Ole Miss and beyond. Thank you and good night.